approval of members' remote participation. I do approve of the remote participation. We'll go through the ceremony apologies first, and I've got a small script to read out. Over to, is it Colonel Carlin?
Thank you, Convener. So I note that we don't have Councillors McGregor and Thompson currently in attendance, but we are quorate with our 3 members, so we may proceed. Thank you.
Thank you, Carolyn. Just for the record, I'm trying to find my script because I never got a hard copy through. I've got it. That's it. So, members, this meeting is being recorded and live streamed. Could I remind members to follow the good practice guidance, which includes muting your microphone, switching off your video when you're not addressing the meeting. Should you wish to contribute to any item, you should write speak in the Teams chat function or raise your virtual hand, and you will be invited to speak in order. I do always say at this point that if for some reason you haven't caught my eye and you're wanting to speak, make sure you just come in. So a vocal request is more than happy by me. Should your question or issue be raised by a previous speaker, please withdraw your request so that we can deal with the business in as efficiently as way as possible. Give me a wee second to go back to my original set papers. So I'm just, because I haven't got a hard copy, I'm just switching between screens. So I think I've approved the remote participation. I've said read a script, so it's declarations of interest. Do any members have any declarations of interest in regards to today's items of business? Yeah, she's shaking his head. Really, just for yourself, George, if you have or not.
No, I'm happy with it. Sorry, the declaration of interest.
Thank you. Thanks so much for that. Minute of the meeting, 1st July. See, that's attached as agenda item 3. It looks like a true reflection to myself, anyways. I think it was yourself and I, George, that was there. I don't think Archie was there, so I would move that as being a true record, unless you've got anything contrary to say.
No, happy with that.
Thank you. Thanks so much, George. So item number 4, so that's been approved. Item number 4 is Licence Scotland Act 2005, applications for occasional licences and extended hours. Granted under delegate authority, that is a report by the clerk to the board. So, Carolyn, have you got anything you want to add? Anything what reason particular members will have read this paper?
No, Convener, it's just for noting. Thank you.
So open up to members. Have you got anything they'd like to pick up on in particular? Are you okay to move on?
Happy no.
Thank you. Thanks for that, Archie. Thank you, George. Item number, so we've noted that. So item number 5 is Licence Scotland Act 2005, applications for minor variations granted under delegated authority. Again, report the clerk to the board. So, Caroline, again, just for the sake of consistency, anything you want to bring to our attention?
No, Convener, just for noting. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks very much. Members, anything in particular you'd like to raise concern or happy to note?
Happy to note.
Excellent, thank you. Saying to Archie earlier, but we'll probably end up doing an Archie today. It's become historically, he's really quick at this, so I'm trying to pick up on his lead. Item number 7 is Licence Scotland Act 2005, surrender of premise license. Report is again by the clerk to the board. So, Caroline, again, anything you wish to add or say?
Just for noting, thank you, Convener.
Thank you, thanks very much. Members?
Noted.
Good again. Okay.
No, I'm content.
Thank you. Thanks, Archie. George. Item number 8 is Licence Scotland Act. This is an application for variation of premises licence. Spa, 3 Melbourne Avenue, Eastriggs. The report again is by yourself, Caroline. Do you want to talk to this?
Sure, Convener. Can I just check, unless I missed it, we noted item number 7 in respect to surrender of the licence. Did we note item number 6 in respect to the transfers? Forgive me if you did and I didn't hear it.
Maybe in my haste I missed that. I thought I'd done that, but maybe not. But just in case, we'll just go over it again. So item number 6 is Licence Scotland Act 2005, applications for transfer of premise licence. Is that, sorry, say that again? Am I on the right one?
So item number 6, Convener, is just noting the applications for transfers that were granted via delegated authority, and then we've got item number 7 noting the surrender of the premises licences. I only heard one coming through in respect to the surrender, but I don't know if that's just from my end. So it was just for absolute clarity, noting items number 6 and 7, if you could confirm. Thank you.
We'll just confirm that. I thought we had done 6, but maybe never. You may be right, Karen. Aye, so
No, it's 6 and 7.
6, so we note 6 and 7. So just for the record, we've noted 4, 5, 6 and 7. And moved on to item number 8. Which again is just, I'll open it up to yourself, Carl, if you want to speak to that. It's in regards to an application for the variation of premise licence at the Spa 3 Melbourne Park. Melbourne.
Of course, convener. We have Miss Caroline Loudon from TLT attending as agent. I just want to check that Miss Loudon can hear me okay.
Caroline, thank you very much.
Thank you. So members, you're aware this is an application for a major variation in respect of Spa in East Riggs in Annan. The application was received the 13th of May 2022 and it's detailed at Appendix 1 of your report in front of you. We've gone through the statutory consultation process. The display dates for the site notice and website notice were the 27th of May to the 18th of June 2022. I can confirm that signed confirmation of site notice has been received. The last date for objections and representations was the 17th of June 2022. I can confirm that no objections or adverse representations have been received. You'll note that at Appendix 2 to the report, you have the LSO report confirming no adverse comments. There's no adverse comments from Police Scotland. In terms of procedure, convener, I suggest you just hear from the police, then the LSO, and then allow Miss Loudon to present her case on behalf of her client, and thereafter questions, if there are any from yourselves. Thereafter, allow Miss Loudon to sum up her position prior to going into session. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Caroline. So I'll ask Police Scotland if they've got anything they want to add to the report.
Thank you, Chair. No police objections from Police Scotland and nothing further to add.
Thanks so much for that. LSO, Mickey?
Thanks, convener. No, nothing further from me today. Thank you.
Thank you. I think it's Miss Loudon. I think Alan said it's for yourself to present your case.
Yes, thank you very much, Your Honours, and pleasure of being here this afternoon. Of course, application for CJ Lang, and I've appeared in a number of these across Scotland. Essentially, we're trying to update some of the licences in the CJ Lang Scottish estates. I think we've lodged about 130 applications of varying kinds across the CJ Lang estate. And essentially, it's to keep the wording the same as much as we can, obviously according to each board policy, so that the staff on site and within CJ Lang itself know exactly what they're operating with. So there was some refurbishment works undertaken at this store, and they wish to have more of a food to go provenance within the shop as well. So you can come in and buy hot bacon roll and a Costa coffee, etc. So that has been done, and we're wishing to add those obviously as activities and update the wording around activities as well, just to make sure that we've captured everything. So for example, this is a standalone shop in a residential area, and there's an ATM to the front of it. So again, just to make sure that there's permission for that ATM is listed on the premises licence. So it's very standard stuff. We have ticked the box of gaming because we've got the National Lottery as an outlet within these, and I'm much more comfortable to have that. Now, obviously, you can't have a poker match or something like that within off sales, but you can have the National Lottery, and because it's regulated by the Gambling Commission, that's why it's on the face of the licence as well. And because of the works that were undertaken within the shop itself, they saw the opportunity to increase the BWS display area very slightly. So taking that up, there is an increase there, but 19.92 metres squared is the new capacity figure if granted today by your honours. So again, very grateful to Mickey for his report, because it is relatively small for this size of shop, as they tend to be across the CJ Lang estate, because this is very much a convenience store, alcohol very much ancillary to the overall shop that you would have in one of these convenience stores, but still an important part for some of that basket spend. So I think no adverse comments, no objections. I'm keen to have an Archie day as well and keep going through things as quickly as possible, if that helps, your honours. So I'll cease there and simply move the grant. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. I know the shop very well. See, Councillor Thompson has joined the meeting. So I haven't got any particular comments or points to make myself in regards to this. It seems fairly safe and sound as far as I'm concerned. But I see Archie's got his hand up. Archie?
Yeah, thanks, Convener. I think this is pretty straightforward, this one. either grant or not, and I think we should grant this one accordingly.
Thank you, Archie, for that. George?
Yeah, I'm in agreement. The shop's a real asset to the village, and I think it's been well presented. So I have no objections whatsoever.
I'm absolutely the same mind, but I'll give Councillor Thompson a chance to come in if he wishes.
Yeah, apologies, convener, a wee bit of connection difficulty, but I'm content with what's been said. But it'd be unfair to me to make too much comment because I wasn't able to hear most of the report. So I'll just leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you, thanks, Stephen. It's had the same connection problems this morning at the committee. Carolyn, do you want to come in?
Yeah, apologies, convener. Yeah, it was just to say because Councillor Thompson's come into this item rather late, my view is it wouldn't really be appropriate for him to kind of participate in this item. So perhaps just wait for his participation in the next item. Thanks.
Excellent. So taking that advice into consideration, I can assume that we're quite happy to grant that. So that's it, Carolyn. If you could just outline the decision that we've made there, please. Okay, so Ms Loudon, you've just heard the board members and the application's been granted in its entirety. You will be notified in writing of that decision in early course with the revised licence sent to you by a member of our team. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Your Honours.
Thank you. Thanks very much. Thanks for your attendance. Item number 9. Licence Scotland Act 2005 application for the variation of premises licence. The Crown Hotel 95 High Street, Lockerbie, and report by yourself again, Carolyn. Carolyn, are you wanting to rehearse what you said earlier, or we'll just go through I can just go through the exact same procedure?
If you're happy for me to convener, I can just briefly read through the report. I just want to check, do we have anybody attending today in respect to this item? I know there's written representations being submitted by the agent, Mr Frank Collins from Brunton Miller. Just checking that you've got that written representation before yourself. Do we have anybody to speak to this application, please? Okay, so
I read Carolyn was clear that there wouldn't be any representation here today, but referred to the LSO's report.
Right, okay, so I'll just go through the report. Thanks, convener. So it's an application for a major variation in respect to the Crown Hotel on the High Street in Lockerbie. The application was received the 27th of July 2022. We've gone through the statutory consultation process, and the display dates for the site notice and website notice was the 5th of August to the 27th of August 2022. Signed confirmation of site notice has been received. The last date for objections and representations was the 26th of August 2022. I can confirm that no objections or adverse representations have been received. The application is detailed, members, at Appendix 1. At Appendix 2 you have the LSO report advising no adverse comments, and of course Police Scotland have also advised no adverse comments. So in terms of suggested procedure, convener, you may wish just to allow the police to speak, hear from the LSO, given that there's nobody here to actually speak in person to the application, just consider and digest and consider the terms of the written representation submitted by the agents, and then go into session. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Caroline. So, Police Scotland, do you have anything to add or change in regard to the previous comments?
Thank you, convener. Yeah, as per the paperwork, no adverse police comments and no police objections.
Thank you very much for that. LSO, Mickey, is your report still as was?
Thanks, convener. Yeah, I'm on a few words today. Not a lot to add to it. Interested in the clerk digest and consider when it's a takeaway food provision, but nothing further from me.
Thank you very much for that, Mickey. Thank you. So it's first to digest and consider. I see Archie, your hand's gone up. Archie?
Yeah, unusual for Mickey Collins not to say much. It's just again, it's reading the reports here. I'm happy to grant this as part of.
Thank you, Archie. So I'll open up to other members. George and Stephen, if you want.
Similar. I'm content with this application.
Stephen, are you happy enough?
Yeah, happy to agree, convener.
Listen, thanks for your input. I think just to refer to the email itself, it spoke, I think, predominantly about the changes that COVID's, how it's affected it, and that's the motivation, I think, behind this particular application. So, Carolyn, if you could just outline the fact that it's been granted, please.
Thank you, convener. So the application has been granted by members today. The applicant will be notified in writing of that decision in early course with the revised premises licence sent to them in early course. Thank you.
Thank you, Carolyn. Thanks for that. So item number 10 is Licence in Scotland Act 2005. It's an application for provisional premises licence, Pavilion at Kinmont House, Annan, and what is again by yourself, Carolyn. Carolyn, over to you.
Thank you, convener. I understand we've got Miss Caroline Loudon again as agent speaking to this application. Miss Loudon, can you hear me okay?
I can, thank you.
Thank you. So members, this is an application for a provisional premises licence in respect of the pavilion at Kinmont House in Annan. The application was received on the 5th of July 2022. We've undergone the required statutory consultation process. I can confirm that provisional planning certificate and disabled access and facilities statement has been received. Notice of the application was published on our webpage from the 30th of July to the 20th of August 2022. Signed confirmation of site notice has been received. The last date for objections and representations is the 19th of August 2022. The application, members, is detailed at Appendix 1 of the report. The LSO report advising no adverse comment is detailed at Appendix 2. You have a police objection detailed at Appendix 3. You'll be aware that this is now with policy hours request, though my understanding is, and of course you'll hear Miss Loudon to speak to this application, my understanding is that Miss Loudon is now modifying this application to ensure that it is within policy hours, but Miss Loudon can speak better to that than I. So in terms of procedure, members suggest that you hear from the police to speak to their objection. Questions from members allow the LSO to speak, and then questions from yourselves, and then allow Miss Loudon to speak on behalf of her client. Thereafter, questions from yourselves, and allow Miss Loudon to sum up her position and then go into session. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Caroline. So, Police Scotland first. I think it's you.
Yeah, thank you, convener. And thanks everyone. I'm Inspector Hugh McComb from Police Scotland and the Police Licensing Department, speaking on behalf of Chief Superintendent Carol Maguire with authority to do so. I'll just take you through the police report and the basis of the police objection. The first part of the police report is confirmation of no convictions of any relevant offences, which is something that we're happy about, and make the objection in the following: that when we go to the court times for alcohol on sales for consumption on the premises, Thursday to Saturday 1100 hours to 0200 hours, and on the Sunday 1100 hours to 100 hours midnight. I probably don't need to go over your own board's policy statement, but it has been identified that that this application is out with the core hours for on-sale consumption of alcohol. However, the board policy statement does allow for an extension with the provision of dancing for 1 AM 0100 terminal hour for Thursday, Friday, Saturday only, and an extra hour on the Sunday to celebrate a special event. We do identify that these premises in the whole have not came to any adverse police attention. However, I should ask that it's not came to any adverse police attention that we would bring before this board as a single item, but this venue has had an incident where police has been earlier in the year, but not probably for escalating to the board, only to highlight that wedding venues could sometimes attract the attention of police should there be calls to that event, so they're not immune to police attention, if you see what I mean from that. However, we have a concern that if this was granted out with board policy and extended to 0-200 hours, that would introduce potential risk to public safety, increased time for alcohol consumption, and may set precedents for other like premises in the board area to apply for same. So that is the Police Scotland report at the moment. I'll pause for any questions and we can sum up once we get more information. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Hugh. Archie's want a question, I think.
Yeah, it's not so much a question, but maybe it's part of the process here. Obviously, Ms. Loudon's here to talk about a potential change within the licence, and this might actually be what she's actually looking at. I did have the same concern as Police Scotland on this, and perhaps it'd be an idea to hear what the changes would actually be, or the amendments that she's actually suggesting before we move that forward.
Thanks for that, Archie. So if I've no other members, what I'll do, I'll go through the process and we'll probably come back to Police Scotland at the end to yourself, Hugh, just to see if there's been an amended, as been mentioned earlier by the clerk. So, Mickey, I don't see any other questions, or LSO, have you got anything to add, change or comment?
Not a great lot to add, convener. I've been working with the applicants very closely here, probably for over 2 years. I think the panel all know Kinmount Estate's a stunning facility on the outskirts of Annan and a real credit to the region. As I say, we worked very closely during the application process that was hampered greatly by the pandemic. So from my perspective, it's good to see the building up and running and being busy, which is always good to see, but nothing adverse from me.
Thank you very much. George, you want to come in?
It's just a query. The fact that it is out with the town and kind of stand alone, and while I accept that it might set a precedence of having extended hours at one particular place and others might apply, is it not significant that it is out of town and that it's less likely to be a burden on the police?
Is that a question for Mickey?
It's for both the police and Mickey.
I suppose really, we'll maybe come back when we get into the session. We'll maybe come back to that, George. We'll just see what's been said by. We'll come back to that particular point. Stephen.
Yeah, thanks, convener. So it was just on the LSO's report, Michael. It does talk about. It says on page 46, although the 2 o'clock terminal hour has been applied for, it's unlikely there'll be much of a demand for such a late finishing time, and then there'd been no previous instance where a late finish was requested. So I had been sort of curious as to, well, had there been, occasional times when the 2 o'clock was asked for and looked for, but it seems to suggest that this would be out with the normal usage pattern that's been happening anyway. And, as that doesn't seem to extend within current policy, I'm much more comfortable with that in terms of the core hours. But so it was really just about that paragraph, the 2 o'clock in your report. Was it ever used anyway, really? I suppose is the question.
Thank you. When I went through this point with the applicant, they were keen to include it in the original application because they were wary that they were getting bookings for weddings involving parties and families coming from around the globe, and they were looking at providing the best customer experience for the families, albeit when I last met with them, it hadn't been used, but that's not to say they might not be asked for it in the future.
So just to come back, if I may, but could that not be contained within other forms of temporary extension rather than a sort of blanket use of that? So I think it was really just to explore that side of it. Thank you.
Yeah, there is an option there that they could apply for extended hours if it was an extremely rare occasion. That would certainly provide cover if required.
Thank you.
Thanks, members. So, Carolyn, you're next anyway, so you can touch on these points that we made if you want, but obviously you've got a case to make, so allow you to say your point. Sorry, I think, Carolyn, you want in before Carolyn? See Loudon comes in.
No, convener, thank you.
Sorry, okay then. So you can probably cover some of the points, but members will get the chance to then ask you questions, and we'll probably go back to the police for reassurance, depending on what you actually propose here as an amendment, if that's what you're.
Yeah, I will, and it's unfortunate to be starting slightly like this because we focused on something which actually doesn't need to be focused on, and I think the police have gone slightly further than the report that they'd actually given, so I haven't had fair notice of one of the points raised, which was about an incident at the property that I have absolutely no knowledge of and hasn't been reported at all. So there's a couple of provisional points, but if I could start back at the beginning and pretend like we haven't had the discussion on the 2 a.m, because I think we've rather sort of gone to that point rather than hearing the whole position here. So it is for Kinmount House, it's for the pavilion at Kinmount House, and it's a provisional premises licence rather than a variation. And I must tender apologies from Mr. Birkbeck. He doesn't have Teams as an option, and the Wi-Fi at the property is abysmal. And I've had various conversations with him this morning trying to help him in order to be able to dial in today, and it became ridiculous. So I've just said, don't worry. And if there's anything, I can obviously feed back to him, and he's aware that we're discussing this afternoon. So Kinmount itself, for those that don't know about it, it's a 19th century country house located about 3.5 miles west of Annan. It's set within 2,000 acres of woodland with lakes and a parkland, and it's been owned privately by the Birkbeck family for at least 145 years. They could have owned it for 185 years, and George was keen to tell me that, but his parents had to sell it the early part of this century. But George was able to buy it back sort of 28 years later. It lay with nothing happening to it, and I'm sure your Honour's local knowledge is better than mine on that. But George was delighted to be able to buy it back clearly and get it back into family ownership. It is a stunning location, and as the website itself says, it's a photographer's dream, with Italian steps leading to gardens and a Victorian bathing hut, as well as many other outdoor features. And there's much to see and do there. Kinmount itself, within the big house, there's a ballroom and a grand hall and an orangery with views across the Solway Firth. So it's a beautiful wedding venue, there's absolutely no doubt. George and his wife live on site in the converted stables there, and the general public, if they come in and take the exclusive use, can have obviously use of Kinmount itself. And it does operate on this exclusive use basis, and the main business is that of weddings, and they do about 85 weddings a year. They're fully booked for this year and next, and are now taking bookings into 2024 as well. They employ 20 to 30 staff, 8 full-time employees, and then they scale up for particular events depending on the size of the wedding essentially coming in. And George himself has invested millions into Kinmount with upgrading and creating this spectacular premises as it now is. And there's a very positive, what we call the halo effect, coming from events at Kinmount. They generate hundreds of thousands of pounds for the local suppliers in the terms that they have to buy in the drink, buy in the food. It is catered for on site, but the bands come in. So it's a really positive halo impact for the local community and local area as well. So the reason for licensing the pavilion is that that's where there's a cash bar operating. So that's where there's a change of money really happening. And so that's where the focus on the license is. And of course, the wedding breakfasts and the receptions take place there as well. And while this is a provisional premises licenses, as Mickey said, we've had occasional licenses running for a significant period of time, and this application has been unfortunately delayed by the dreaded COVID, which impacted everybody. We seek on sales hours of 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. Monday to Thursday, and I have got instructions to bring that 2 a.m. slot back into policy on the Thursday, Friday and Saturday of 1 a.m. There's a fairly comprehensive activities list, as you would expect with a venue of this type, with breakfast and operations commencing at 8 a.m, and you can see that within the drafting itself. Children and young persons access. Children are accompanied by an adult and are there for the purpose of consuming a meal or attending a private function. Young persons unaccompanied, but again on these very same terms, and to 2,200 hours or the end of a private function. Capacity is 200 with 12.25 metres squared for off sales. Hang on a second, sorry. And the house itself, as you've said, is set apart from neighbours. There's nobody local to it that has the potential of being disturbed. There's a lot of buffering in terms of woodland, the lake, everything. and there's no issues with the running of the property on occasional licence. I think I would only point to Mickey's expert report and point 14, which really does sum up the application in its own right. And Mickey, if you don't mind me reading that, he says, Kinmount House is a stunning building set among beautiful surroundings. The wedding facility is proving to be a local asset and a credit to the region. If successful, this application will only enhance the attraction of the wedding venue to the wider public, and that is the case here. So I hope that gives the board comfort. We don't seek the 2 a.m. I did speak to Mr. Birkbeck, and he'd like that ability, just as Mickey said, to have a later hour. And I've said to him, what we'll do is get up and running, get the licence in full, essentially, and we can apply for these extended hours as and when he needs. So if it's a very big wedding coming in, then we can seek it at that time and seek the extra hour that you can have with an extended hour application. That also creates a bit of a diary of events for the board. So I wouldn't usually seek an out of policy application without providing you with evidence that works. Now, occasionally we have to sort of suck it and see, but with this, because we haven't had the demand for later hours, and again, that's been driven by not as many people being able to come out and about over the last pandemic period. But that's how I would do it, is a gradual diary of events coming in, making sure it's not impacting Police Scotland, Mickey's happy with it, and then present to you more formally and seek a major variation later on down the line, because it might well be that we find that we never need that later hour. But I think when George was first looking at this, he did want it, and so that's why it was submitted. But we're happy to try it within policy, see how it goes, and if we need later, then we can come back and ask you for it. But at that stage, I'll have set it up, so there's some evidence. So I hope that helps this afternoon, Your Honours, and I would simply move the grant. It's a beautiful place.
Thank you very much for that, Ms Loudon. So, Carolyn, I think I'll let you come in first.
Thank you, Convener. It was just, you may wish to ask Ms Loudon just for a wee bit clarification there. So Ms Loudon has confirmed the scaling back request from the 2 a.m. terminal hour to the 1 a.m. terminal hour, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. The request for the Sunday evening is to midnight, and it was just to point out that the policy hour is to 11 p.m. on that Sunday night. So it was just to seek clarification as to whether Ms Loudon is happy to scale that request as well in respect to the Sunday to 11 p.m.
I'm very happy to do that. And again, on the same basis that if that doesn't work, I can try to infill with extended hours if we have an event, and then come back to you on a whole scale basis addressing this particular point. So happy to do that, Caroline. Thank you.
Thanks very much. So what I'll do first, I'll go back to Police Scotland, just to, if you've got any points in regards to, there's an amendment proposal being put forward, and would that affect your representation?
Thank you, Convener. As you've seen, Police Scotland's statutory objection was out with policy. If the application is amended to be within Annandale and Eskdale board policy, I would suggest there'll be no, or I can confirm there will be no objections from Police Scotland to a within policy application.
Thank you very much for that. Archie, you want to come in?
Yeah, I think our Caroline was actually the same question I was regarding the Sunday. I'm happy that the applicant has changed to the policy hours, which I'm really happy to support this application. I would suggest, however, that any future application, if it was going to 0200, I would have some concerns, specifically with the public safety aspect of this. So you would have to make very clear to me what the situation was, because people drinking up to 2 o'clock in the morning and driving the following day, I would have a serious concern about. But this application, as amended by the applicant, I'm quite happy to support, Chair.
Thanks for that, Archie. So we'll open up to George and Stephen in that order, please.
Yeah, I'm very content with it, and wish the project every success. I can take Archie's points and view bits for future reference. I think in this modern day we should be able to accommodate the late openings, and people know the law, and we should be able to make that judgment. But as it stands, I'm 100% behind it, and I think it's well presented and good compromise.
Thank you, George. Stephen, do you want to say anything?
Yeah, thanks, convener. I think obviously the application and the sort of the specific project itself is sort of clearly going to be an asset to the region when it's sort of fully realised. But I think the key thing for me about this was more about the core hours, and I think that's been addressed. So on that basis, happy to support. Thank you, as amended.
Thank you. That goes for myself as well, just as the last person to speak on this. More than happy to support this. Delighted to hear that George is taking this forward. Hopefully it becomes very sustainable financially, that is, and it is a beautiful area. And like Councillor Jimmerson, as you said, I wish him all the best in the future as a success, and there's a clear mechanism there in which to apply for extra if required. I think maybe Carlin's want to come in now.
No, convener. Once you've made a decision, I'm happy to confirm that decision to Ms Loudon. Thank you.
Sorry, Carlin, it was outlined in yellow in your body. It must have just been the way it was coming on. I thought you were wanting in. So, anyways, I think that's a clear decision. Then we've agreed it's subject to the amendments, which is Thursday to Saturday, which is 11 to 1 AM, and the Sunday is 11 to midnight. That is the morning. That is to 2400 hours. So.
Convener, just a wee bit clarification there. So Ms Loudon proposed the modifications, as you're aware, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, 2 AM scaling back to 1 AM that you've accepted. Also in respect of the Sunday, you just mentioned midnight there, but Ms Loudon has confirmed that they would scale back to the policy hour on a Sunday night at 11 PM. So just, I know it gets a wee bit kind of confusing there, so just to confirm the decision is within the policy, 1 AM terminal hour Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and the Sunday night is 11 PM.
I think that if Ms Loudon, that is, if you could just confirm that, I did get that wrong. Sorry.
No, you're absolutely fine. Yes, that's perfectly correct. Thank you.
Okay, so I'll just confirm the decision that the application for your provisional has been granted based on the acceptance of your proposed modifications to the terminal hour in respect of Thursday, Friday, Saturday will be till 1 AM and the terminal hour on a Sunday evening will be till 11 PM to bring those requested hours within policy, and you'll be notified in early course, Ms Loudon, of that decision. Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you. Just because I'm working electronically, I'm struggling a wee bit. Give me a second. I think that's it, isn't it? Can you see it? Is it anything? Is it? I'm getting confirmation there. So just what I've got next is the date of the next meeting is Friday the 9th of December. Unless anybody has anything else that they wish to raise at this point. That's our business for today. Well, listen, thanks everybody for your attendance. It's very much appreciated. Thanks so much, Hugh. And that's you want that's you saying goodbye, I think, isn't it? Yeah, bye.
Yes, goodbye.
Excellent. Cheers. Thanks so much, everybody. Thanks for that.
Thank you.
Thanks, convener.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks,
Thank you.
convener.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye now.